It was another long night at the small corner diner, the kind of place where time moved slowly, where tired faces came and went, and the smell of coffee was stronger than hope. She was wiping down tables dreaming about a life she could barely afford to imagine. Double shifts, rent overdue, dreams buried under exhaustion. That's when the door opened and he walked in, a stranger, soaked from the rain, no umbrella, no wallet, no smile. His eyes, tired, empty, the kind of look that said he'd lost everything. He sat in the corner booth, didn't order, didn't speak, just stared out the window, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. She hesitated for a moment, then walked over with a cup of hot coffee. "On the house," she said softly. He looked up, surprised. "You don't even know me. You look like you need it," she replied. He smiled faintly, the first hint of life in his face. She brought him soup and bread. He tried to refuse, but she insisted. "Don't worry about it. Just eat." They talked for a bit, nothing deep, just warmth in a cold world. He told her his name was Daniel, that he'd had a hard week. She didn't ask questions. She didn't care if he was rich or poor. She just cared that he was human. That night he left quietly, leaving only a folded napkin behind with one word written on it: "Thank you." Days passed, then weeks. The diner stayed the same, flickering neon lights, old jukebox, the rhythm of ordinary life. Until one morning a black car stopped outside. Men in suits walked in, followed by him, but he wasn't the same man she'd met that rainy night. The torn jacket was gone, the sadness replaced with confidence. He wore a custom suit now, and when he spoke, the whole diner went silent. "You probably don't remember me," he said. She blinked, confused. "Daniel," he smiled. "That night you gave me food, kindness, and hope. You didn't know that I was a billionaire, that I'd lost everything that mattered. That night I wanted to disappear, but your kindness reminded me who I was." He placed an envelope on the counter. Inside, a letter and a set of keys. "You told me you always wanted to own a bakery someday," he said. "Well, now you do." Her hands trembled. "I can't accept this. You already did." He smiled. "That night when you shared your food with a stranger, I promised myself if I ever stood tall again, I'd come back for you." Music swells, emotional tone builds. Tears filled her eyes as the crowd around them applauded softly. He continued, "People think power is about money, but that night you had more power than I ever did. You gave without asking. You saw a person, not a title." She looked at him, eyes shimmering. "Why me?" He smiled gently. "Because in a world where everyone wants something, you gave something." Soft instrumental swells, golden morning light through diner windows years later. That little bakery became one of the city's favorite spots, known not for luxury, but for kindness. On the wall near the counter, a small plaque read, "One act of kindness can feed more than hunger. It can feed the soul." And every morning, as the city came alive, she'd look out the window and whisper to herself, "That one night changed everything." Music fades out, soft heartbeats sound, then silence. It was well past midnight, the kind of hour when the world forgets to be kind. Inside a small, dimly lit diner at the edge of the city, a young waitress moved from table to table, wiping counters that no one noticed. Her name was Clara. She'd been working double shifts for weeks, saving every tip for her mother's medical bills. Her body was tired, but her heart was still gentle. That night, as thunder rolled outside, the door creaked open, and a man walked in. His clothes were soaked, his face pale, his eyes hollow. He didn't order anything. He just sat at the corner booth, staring blankly at the rain. Most people would have ignored him, but Clara didn't. She walked over with a cup of hot coffee. "On the house," she said softly. He looked up, startled. "Why?" "Because everyone deserves a warm cup on a cold night. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides a lifetime of pain. As she walked away, she didn't see the tear he wiped from his cheek. That man was Ethan Cole, a billionaire CEO, the name behind half the city's skyline. But that night, none of that mattered, because he wasn't a CEO anymore. He was a man who'd lost everything: his company, his marriage, his sense of purpose. He sat in that diner because he wanted to disappear. And somehow her small act of kindness stopped him. Music swells slightly, hopeful strings, days passed. Weeks faded, life went on, until one morning a black limousine parked in front of the diner. People stared. The door opened, and out stepped the same man, but now dressed in power, confident, alive. Clara froze. "You?" he smiled. "Me." He placed a folder on the counter. "Inside this," he said, "is the deed to a cafe downtown. I bought it for you." She was speechless. "I don't understand." "That night, you gave me something no amount of money could buy: compassion. You saw a man when the world saw a failure. You reminded me that even when everything is gone, humanity still exists." Pause. Soft music. "I wanted to end my life that night." He continued, "But your kindness changed my mind." She covered her mouth, tears falling silently. "I don't want repayment," she said. "I just want you to be okay." He smiled again. "I am, because of you." Music swells, hopeful and cinematic. Months later, Clara's new cafe opened under the name Second Chances. On opening day, Ethan came to visit. No suits, no cameras, just a man with gratitude. She greeted him with the same words as before. "Coffee's on the house." He laughed softly. Some things never change. As they sat together, the morning sun filled the cafe windows, warm, golden, full of promise. And in that moment, they both realized something powerful. The richest people in the world aren't the ones with the most money, but the ones who remember the value of kindness. Soft fade out, piano and strings blend with distant city sounds, because sometimes one cup of coffee can change an entire life. The night was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes even the city lights look lonely. Inside a run-down diner, a young waitress named Maya worked the closing shift. Her apron was old, her eyes were tired, but her spirit still kind. She'd learned not to expect much from life. Tips were small, rent was late, and dreams were something she used to believe in. That's when he walked in. Soaked from the rain, no umbrella, no wallet, just silence. He sat in the this booth, head down, like a man trying to disappear. "Rough night?" she asked gently. He didn't answer. So she poured him coffee anyway, dark, strong and free. "It's on the house," she whispered. He looked up, confused. "Why?" "Because you look like you need it." Soft pause, rain hitting the glass. They didn't talk much after that. But for the first time in a long time, someone saw him. That man's name was Alexander Reed, CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire. Except nobody knew he'd lost it all. A betrayal in his company, a scandal that destroyed his reputation. Overnight, the media turned him into a monster. He'd come to that diner that night to end it all, to vanish. But her kindness stopped him. Music builds slightly, strings rising with warmth. Weeks later, Maya returned for another night shift. The diner buzzed with whispers, 3 black cars outside, men in suits, and someone waiting at the counter. She froze. It was him, Alexander, but not the broken man from that rainy night. He stood tall again. Sharp suit, confident eyes. "You," she said softly, came back. "I had to." He smiled. "That night you saved me. You gave me something I'd forgotten: humanity." He placed a sealed envelope on the counter. "What's this?" she asked. "A partnership," he replied. "You said once you dreamed of owning a bakery, now you will." She shook her head. "I can't accept that. You already did," he said gently, "when you handed me that cup of coffee, no strings attached." Soft piano melody rises golden morning light through the window months later. Maya's bakery and cafe opened downtown. On the opening day, a small plaque hung near the door, inspired by a stranger who reminded me that kindness is the richest gift of all. And every morning when the first cup of coffee was poured, Maya smiled, remembering the night a single act of compassion changed 2 lives forever. Music swells fade out because sometimes the smallest kindness saves the biggest heart. Life has a strange way of bringing people together, sometimes when you least expect it. On a cold, rainy night, a small diner sat quietly on the edge of the city, the kind of place where dreams came for coffee and stayed for silence. Behind the counter worked Elena, a waitress with tired hands and a kind heart. She didn't have much, but she had something most people had forgotten: compassion. That night, as thunder rolled across the sky, the door opened and a stranger walked in, soaked to the bone, no umbrella, no direction. His clothes screamed defeat, his eyes emptiness. He sat alone in the corner booth, staring at nothing. "Rough night?" Elena asked softly. He nodded but said nothing. Without asking, she placed a steaming bowl of soup and a cup of coffee before him. "Eat first," she said. "Talk later." He hesitated. "I can't pay you." She smiled gently. "Then pay it forward someday." Soft piano swells. What she didn't know was that he wasn't just another lost soul. His name was Lucas Grant, a billionaire CEO whose empire had just crumbled overnight. Betrayed by his own board, abandoned by friends, torn apart by greed. He had nothing left, no money, no hope, no reason to go on, until that night. Her kindness became the light that pulled him back from the edge. Weeks later, the diner buzzed with rumors. A man in a tailored suit had come looking for Elena. Black cars lined the street. The staff froze when he walked in. "You probably don't remember me," he said softly. She looked closer, and then her eyes widened. Yes," he interrupted with a smile, "Lucas Grant. But to me, you'll always be the woman who saved me with soup and kindness." He placed a white envelope on the counter. "What's this?" she asked, confused. "A restaurant?" He said, "Your own. You once told me you dreamed of cooking for people who needed comfort. Now you can." "I can't accept this," she whispered. "You already did," he said warmly, "that night when you fed me with nothing but heart." Music builds light, emotional crescendo. Months later, the restaurant The Kind Spoon opened its doors, a place where no one was turned away hungry. And every morning, Elena made sure to keep one table by the window, reserved for anyone who just needed a little kindness. Soft fade, gentle piano outrow, because sometimes saving a stranger doesn't just change their life, it changes the world around them.